One of the most important tasks the manager faces is recruiting top talent. When you have the opportunity to make a new hire, you should approach it as an excellent opportunity to strengthen your department by adding a new personality with unique skills, abilities, and energy. And increasing abilities of your team can make you more effective in your role. In this episode, we'll discuss what top talent seeks in a job, how you need to be prepared to address those wants, and how they will evaluate you as the hiring manager. Hi, I'm Rick Kendall.
And I'm Fred Ball.
Welcome to Management Mastery. The purpose of these podcasts is to share what each of us has learned about good and bad management in our combined over 40 years of experience, both as managers and executive coaches. During that time, we've coached managers at every level in companies from Fortune 100s to brand new startups in all major businesses, including nonprofits, government, and education. So whether you're just starting in your first management position or are an experienced manager looking to strengthen your management skills, we know our podcast will be valuable to you.
Top candidates understand that there are a finite number of career decisions and or moves they can make, and they want to make the best decisions for themselves. In our experience as managers and coaches, we consistently have found that the most desirable candidates for senior positions want a company that is doing well as a challenging job.
And they want to be able to learn new skills. And on top of that, they're looking for an excellent boss and a senior management they respect. And they want to work with bright, stimulating, and fun people who also want to work with them. And finally, they want a position where they can visualize a career path.
It is critical for the hiring manager to remember that when the candidate is serious about the interview process, they will also be evaluating you and your team as well. After the interview, they will be asking themselves a number of questions. So what we're talking about in this episode is the candidate's evaluation. And some of the questions that they will be asking themselves are, was I comfortable? Did I like the people I met?
And they'll also be asking, do I think I could fit into that department in that company? And am I interested in the work? And can I do it successfully? And probably most important, am I excited about working for this company? And we'll look at each of these in detail and discuss what you, the manager, need to do in order to land the candidate.
As we said, top candidates want a dynamic, successful, and demanding organization with a strong corporate culture. They want to work for a company that provides more than a place to go to work. They want a challenging job in a company that's successful and growing or is committed to turning itself in a new positive direction. Now, the good news here is that if the candidate didn't already have reason to believe that your company is such a place, they probably wouldn't be seeking a job there anyway.
Yeah, that's true. But nevertheless, when you're interviewing a good candidate, you need to assume yours isn't the only such company that they're looking at or that's looking at them. So it's important that you sell the dynamic nature of your company and why it's an exciting and fulfilling place to work. And you also need to talk about how people treat each other and what the social atmosphere is like. Somebody once pointed out to me, you're going to be spending more time with your coworkers than you are with your family generally. So how they get along with people is really important. And you need to talk about what their prospects are in the company if they do well. Even if the candidate doesn't ask, you need to bring that up and cover it. Here's what you can expect.
Yes, and in regard to what you were talking about, you can rest assured that a top candidate is going to have done research on your company. They're going to know certainly some of the things that you're talking about, maybe not in as much depth, but they're going to know about the company, and they're going to have talked to friends about it in order to do their due diligence before they even come to see you.
That's a good point, Fred. And the other part of that is if you're aware, if you as the hiring manager are aware of kind of bad raps out in the atmosphere about the company, be prepared to address them. Even if the candidate doesn't bring it up, you need to be prepared to deal with it. And if the candidate does bring it up, be straightforward about it. Well, that happened several years ago, but the management stepped in and took care of it or whatever, so that it doesn't linger. And you don't want to deny it, because the candidate is going to believe what they hear unless you set them straight. So you want to be prepared to deal with any negative ideas that might be out there about the company, if there are any.
Also, many talented job seekers also are looking to improve the human condition through the products or services of the companies they work for. If you can, talk about the social relevance of the company's products or services. If what the company does is not especially socially relevant, then talk about how the company encourages and supports employees' community service efforts, and how you, as their boss, also encourage and support such efforts by your staff members.
That too is a big deal. I worked with a client who was very concerned about that, and the company that they went to work for, really, their product was not relevant in that way, but the company as a whole was very socially conscious. They matched employees' donations to social service organizations. They gave employees time off to do volunteer work. They really supported that. So it made a lot of difference, but you need to communicate that, especially if you sense you've got a candidate for whom that's important. And
I agree. That's a good point that you made.
And again, top candidates want challenging work with learning opportunities. Of course, there are many ways that candidates can find challenging work regardless of the size or type of company. And what's important is that the candidate senses the energy right from the start of the interviewing process. Again, I worked with a client who was being recruited by a company, and it would mean moving their family, and they were somewhat hesitant about that. Oh, they really liked the company and wanted to work there, and they were taking a position as a director of a research department, and they were keenly aware that in many companies the research department was sort of a backwater and nobody paid any attention to it. So the candidate asked the hiring manager, "What do you want from your research department?" And the hiring manager said, "We want somebody to tell us what we're doing because we don't have a clue." And that was such an honest, it was exactly what the candidate wanted to hear. And that sealed the deal for the candidate. So those kinds of answers are really important to a desirable candidate. Like we said, there are going to be other people looking at them, and so you've got to be compelling.
Specifically, you want to be sure that the candidate understands how their role in the company will contribute to the company's success, that they understand what will be expected of them in their position. They feel that they have the training to be successful, and if there's any question about that, there's nothing wrong with saying to a candidate, look, if there are certain aspects of the job that you don't feel that you are trained in, we'll make sure that you get the training, and we'll work with you in order to make sure that you're up to speed in all facets of the job.
Yeah, that's very important. And you want to make sure that the candidate feels that they'll be provided with the equipment and materials needed to accomplish successfully their assignments. And finally, a good candidate will want to feel assured that they'll be offered opportunities to take on a project or assignment that'll provide intellectual and creative challenges and will give them an opportunity to acquire new skills. So again, they want to feel they have the opportunity to grow and develop in the company.
And new skills is critical to what they're interested in. Top candidates also want to feel that they will be part of a team that respects them as an individual and wants them as a partner. And they'll be looking for signs all the way through to see whether or not they think that that's happening. For top candidates, respect is a critical factor, and it is assessed in a very practical manner. A top candidate will be asking themselves at every turn, how am I being treated by people I'm meeting in this company compared with how people treat me in other companies where I'm interviewing? So just as Rick said, they're going to be interviewing in more than one company. In this case, initial reactions are critical. Candidates will have their antenna up from the time they come onto the company grounds or enter the office. They'll listen carefully to sense how the team operates, how a new employee would be treated, and whether their skill set will be appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, specifically, the desirable candidate's going to be looking to see if they feel whether the team members will welcome them to the team and show them support, if they'll have coworkers who are bright and committed to quality work, if their opinions will matter to their coworkers, and will their future team members allow them to do what they do best to support the success of the whole team. Uh, that's so important. You pick that up right away. Is this a group of people who are closed off and everybody's guarding their own turf, or are they, oh, good, you're going to bring such great skills to our team, and we're going to help you, and you're going to help us? Is it that kind of atmosphere?
And if it's not clearly obvious to them, then they'll use their gut to make a determination about that, which is equally important. Good candidates will also want to know if the position offers competitive compensation and benefits. Of course, fair compensation is important to everyone, and you need to assume that the good candidate will have a reasonable idea of what the position pays in the marketplace. Also, most top candidates will ask directly what they can expect in the way of compensation. The wise manager should also be aware of what competitors for the candidate are likely to offer and be prepared if their company pays less. Be prepared to talk about other benefits, such as the amount of vacation, education assistance, or other perks of the company that the company offers that may offset a lower level of monetary compensation. The key is to be prepared to deal with the issue up front, not to be the first to bring it up, but to be ready if and when the candidate does.
Yeah, again, specifically, you want the candidate to feel that their pay will be competitive with whatever other companies pay for their position and their level of experience, and that you, as their manager, are aware of those marketplace salary and benefits. And they also want to know if you'll let them know how their work will be evaluated and give important feedback from time to time.
The great candidate will also be looking for a reasonable work-life balance. This, of course, is very much an individual decision. The key here, again, is for the manager to be prepared to deal with the issue and to show the candidate how the company responds to the needs of the staff person for such balance.
Yes. And specifically, you want to be sure that the candidate feels that they will be made aware of what the time demands are pertaining to their job, that you'll allow them to leave work to attend an urgent personal matter if the situation arises, and that team members will support one another when it comes to urgent or unusual projects. And finally, they want to know if they're unable or unwilling to keep up with some of the time commitments and responsibilities for the position, that you'll support them in transferring to a more appropriate position.
Most top candidates are also looking for an outstanding boss, mentor, and coach. The best candidates understand that having the right boss is one of the most important factors in success in one's job. Today's most successful bosses manage with a more participative style, away from a vertical, authoritative style. This participative style can be very consistent with hard work and productivity. As the interviewing manager, it is up to you to convey that this is your type of management style to the candidate.
Yeah, I've found in many of my coaching assignments that style, as you put it, the difference between the hierarchical, old-fashioned, top-down kind of approach is so much less effective than one where everyone is participating and feels that they have an equal say in what's going on. That motivates people to do more, to contribute more, because they feel that they're heard and appreciated. So, you want the candidate to sense that they'll have a manager who cares about them as a person, that their opinions will matter to and be respected by their manager, and that their manager will allow them to determine how to best accomplish their work, within certain limitations and structures, but that they're free to do the best they're able to do. And they want the manager who will encourage and support their development and talk with them about their progress at least once a year.
So in summary, the wise manager understands that the market for top talent in any field is a competitive one, and also that compensation isn't the only factor in a top candidate's decision-making. Respect, work environment, and a clear path for advancement are also critical factors the candidate will be evaluating and that the manager needs to address fully. In another episode, we will discuss the characteristics of outstanding hiring managers who are able to land candidates.
We hope you have found this podcast useful and will come back again for more Management Mastery. If you have any comments about this or any of our episodes, or would like to find out more about our other services, including one-on-one coaching and group seminars for managers, visit our website at careercoachclass.com. Thanks for listening.